For a closer look at the situation in Argentina, I'm joined by Marcelo Etchebarne. He's from CEK Finance Group. Very much appreciate your time. Is Argentina suffering in the same way as other emerging markets from this? It seems like this sort of cloud of cash that moves around the world, and it moves in and then it can easily move out as well. It's basically coming back to where you are now, to the US.
Well, thank you for having me. You're absolutely right on what's going on globally. I think Argentina has its own problems. We've been having high inflation for the last 3-4 years. If you look at early 2008, Argentina was yielding pretty much the same like Brazil. But since then, Argentina began tampering with inflation indexes, and inflation has been north of 20% for the last couple of years. So the peso continued to get appreciated, and dollar outflows began to grow significantly, and central bank reserves have been depleting for the last several months, especially the last 18 months. Argentina has its own problems, which now get exacerbated by what's going on globally. A year ago, you would say that high yield was 4%. Well, 10-year treasuries will be at 4% by the end of next year, most likely. And Argentine bonds are yielding 12, 14, 15%, depending on what you're looking at. So Argentina has its own problems, but at this point in time, an increase on interest rates in the US could be catastrophic in Argentina at some point during this year. And this may happen either before March, when grain companies begin to sell their products internationally, or it could be after they finish selling it after September, closer to December, when Argentina needs to make significant payments on the GDP warrants and other international bonds.
What's baffling to a lot of people who followed the markets over the last couple of decades is that we had the Asian financial crisis, you had a crisis in Argentina 12 years ago, and they were major crises, brought the countries. Argentina was on its knees, its economy was on its knees. And we're only sort of a decade later, and it's all happening again. There doesn't seem to have been any sort of structural change to protect it from this sort of thing happening again. We're just going to see it happen again. Nothing changed last time.
Well, this is certainly different from what happened before. Argentina had a peso pegged to the dollar from 1991 to 2001, so it was really hard to make a devaluation. And when Argentina made a devaluation in 2002, we did not have significant inflation. The peso went from 1 to 3, and inflation was about 60%. So it didn't couple with the devaluation. Now, you had a devaluation of about 15% on Thursday of last week, and gas prices got increased by 13%. So a devaluation now in Argentina goes directly into prices on the economy. And what happened over the last decade, I think, is that public spending began growing significantly. And Argentina could easily solve this problem by taking certain measures that this administration may not be ready to take.